Hello, BookTube. It's Sunday, and I thought I'd bring you another science fiction film. I'm going to do some supplementary ones over the next couple weeks to sort of try to get all these books that I've received, my books that I haven't seen for almost 20 years. It's Old Friends United, I guess you could say. And also sort of combining them a little bit with things that I've bought while I've been in the UK here. And I'm gonna I've done a couple of videos for this. I did one, I guess it was for last Tuesday. Was it Tuesday? I can't remember now. But anyway, I've done one, like full one for it, and then I've done part of Friday Reads with a few extra things. Today is sort of going to be part one of Isaac Asimov and Isaac Asimov related material. I'm sort of splitting it up to, it's a sort of vague split up. Like the first part will be autobiographical and biographical information, and then there'll be books about that's been written about Isaac Asimov, and then some other stuff, some of his nonfiction writings related to science fiction. So it's a little mishmash, and I'll keep most of the fiction separate, and I'm only going to be really mostly showing. Well, the fiction, it'll only be the hardcovers that I have. I've already shown all the paperbacks that I've had. Anyway, let's get into it rather than this ramble. I've already shown this on Instagram, so some people may have seen it. I've talked about it a few times. It's been around. And it's Isaac jeez, the glare there is bad, isn't it? It's the autobiography of Clifford Simak, In Memory Yet Green. This is from 1920 to 1954. This is a real edition. It's not a book club because it's got the price on the jacket. Doubleday and Company, 1979. And it's the first edition. There are on some of these there are clippings in them, and this one is sort of a review from a newspaper. I'm not sure what newspaper. It was always stuck in the book by Janine Leffers, and it's always been stuck in. It's over 700 pages. He liked talking about himself, let's put it that way. And, I'm more than happy with this. I've had a read of it many, many years ago, and I'm sure I'm going to reread it again. Oh, sorry, I got to set these down somewhere. The logistics here is getting a little tight, or the area that I am, because you see a new pile here, and then you probably see this pile here, which is sort of new. And I'm getting squeezed out here. I got a lot of work to do to organize this stuff once I start feeling better, which is occasionally happening, but not all the time. Now, part two of his autobiography is In Joy Still Felt, 1954 to 1978. And there he is with his trademark whiskers, pork chop whiskers. And again, this is a trade edition with the price on it. This was published in 1980. Again, it's very big. It's over 700 pages. It's Doubleday and Company. It's actually over 800 pages, this one. So he continued to like talking about himself. There's an interesting little thing on YouTube if anybody's interested. He's on the David Letterman show promoting this, and there's a little segment of that, so that's kind of interesting. So for a long time, he didn't write anything else. Well, not specifically book-wise. This was the last one that was actually done. It was published after he had died in 1992. It's I, Asimov, a memoir. And it covers a little bit of the ground, I believe, in a more general sense, of those. So it's got some similar stuff, but a bit different. And there are clippings in here as well. You've got, I think, his last essay for the magazine of science fiction, fantasy and science fiction. Somebody's clipped out, and then an appreciation, or is it just one appreciation? Yeah, by Harlan Ellison, as well, and a review of it from the Hartford Courant, Sunday, June 2nd, 1994. It's a photocopy of a review of the book, and this was put out in. Yeah, it was 92. I think it was like after. Oh, 94 actually. Sorry, no, it was 1994. So a little while after, but he sort of more or less finished it, and his wife Janet, or widow Janet Asimov, finished it. Like touched it up and re-edited the manuscript. It is smaller. It's about 550 pages, and then. This one took me a long time to. I did a video about it. A long time to get a hardcover of it, and I got that here in the UK. It's something that Janet Jepson Asimov put out in. Let's look at the date here. It's by Prometheus Books. Just looking here. 2000, I guess it was 2002. So it's almost coming up to 20 years. And it's called "It's Been a Good Life." It's edited by Janet Jepson. It's again an overview and some stuff that hadn't been done before. And that's a picture of, well, it's his second wife, I believe, Janet Jepson, and Isaac there. It also has a review. Also, well, this is from the Sunday Oregonian, May 19th, 2002, by George W. Early, who was a fan and book reviewer, science fiction fan and book reviewer. So yeah, so that's that one. Now, so there's 4 volumes basically that are sort of autobiographical material about Clifford Simak. There's a letters collection that was edited by his brother. It's very difficult to see. It's called Yours, Isaac Asimov, A Lifetime of Letters, edited by Stanley Asimov. I've done a video about this a while back. If I remember, I'll try to put it down at the bottom if anybody's interested. And then, as far as I'm aware, there's only been one actual biography. It's an unauthorized biography. It's Asimov, The Unauthorized Life, Michael White. I've got a paperback of this too because I should have grabbed it, but it doesn't really matter. I don't think there's any changes. I bought the paperback here in the UK, but this came along. It's got a bit of a slant. I got to fix the book. This is the UK edition, and it says The Grand Master of Science Fiction and Popular Science. This was published in 1994 by Millennium. It's an Orion book. This is, like I say, the UK edition. It's fairly short. It's like 250 pages. It's part of the collection. It says a few things that he doesn't talk about, but it's short, obviously. Now, there's a few more things that, see, every time Isaac Asimov put out a collection of his own short stories, or book, there's a lot of little bits of autobiographical information that's in there as well, like in his preface to the collection, or little introductions to each story. But also for, like, he wrote and edited over 500 books by the time he had passed away in 1992. Now, for the first 100, the 100th book that he did, he put out a collection of sort of his, what he thought was his best bits or his favorite bits from the first 100 books. And again, there's autobiographical material. He did that for the 200th and 300th, but I don't think he did anything after that. And here is Opus 100 with him, sitting beside the piles, or possibly standing. He is sitting. It's a guided tour through the first 99 books of America's foremost science writer. And he's got my 100 books on the back. This is 1969 by Houghton Mifflin and Company, Boston. First printing, 1969, as I say. Dedication to time and circumstance, which have been kind to me. And yeah, he's got astronomy, robots, mathematics, physics, chemistry, biology, words, history, the Bible, short stories, humor, and then a listing of the 100 books. So he's got like an introduction. He's got little little introductions to each section, and usually there's a bit of a biographical thing, or things that were going on possibly with the publishers, with his life, and that kind of thing, like little bits and pieces throughout. And then he did the exact same thing for 200, Opus 200, and here he is with his pork chop whiskers, and sitting on 200 his 200 books. And then at the back, my second 200, or second 100 books. Or maybe that's just the 100. I'm not sure. Maybe it's 200 that he's sitting on. I'm not sure. But yeah, this was published in 1979, so just 10 years later. It's the 200th book. This is the first printing, I believe, by Houghton Mifflin and Company, 1979. Again, he goes through the same sort of thing: astronomy, robots, mathematics, physics, blah blah blah, and then autobiography, because he'd done the autobiography. And there's a listing of the second 200 books, and he does the exact same thing: an introduction and little prefaces or introductions to each of the selections. And then Opus 300. As I say, I think that's where he left it. I never looked, but I'm 100% sure there is no Opus 400, and definitely no Opus 500. I'm sure of that, and I'm pretty sure there's no Opus 400. I don't even know if it was ever planned. I don't remember. He might have talked about it in his autobiography. This is 1984, so really quick at that point. Houghton Mifflin and Company. I think this is when he started counting his edited volumes as well. So yeah, so you can have an argument there. And this one's dedicated to Robin, his daughter, and it's the same exact same structure, just little bits and some full essays and so forth. Now we'll move on to his writings about science fiction, and they're mostly essays that appeared here, there, and everywhere, but mostly in the magazine of science fiction and fantasy and science fiction. I always get that backwards. And this is the British edition. I've showed this at one point, I believe, because I got it here in the UK. I'd never had it, or I probably did actually in paperback, but I wanted a hardcover of it. It's Asimov on science fiction. It's published by Granada. What year is it here? 1983, originally 1981 by Nightfall and Company. And it's not yellowed yet, and I say yet because Granada books are usually very famous for that. They're quite cheaply made. But it's a collection of essays, a whole lengthy collection. Science fiction in general, writing of science fiction, the predictions of science fiction, the history of science fiction writers, science fiction fans, science fiction reviews, and science fiction and I. And he followed that up with another collection, Reflections on Science Fiction by Isaac Asimov. This has a really interesting... I thought I had a bookmark in here. Let me see if I can find it to do this correctly. Yeah, it's about Susan Calvin, which is she's a character in the robot, iRobot, and so forth. Let me see. Let me find it here. It's a very, very short essay. Yeah, here it is. And people have wondered all along where he got the name Susan Calvin. And people say, well, they thought it was from, Calvin, the religious leader, but no. It was basically he had a professor that he really liked when he was writing this when he was in college, basically, and her name was Susan Caldwell, and that's what he wrote. But then he got cold feet and thinking that she may not appreciate, because she was very helpful to him, and he thought maybe that would all disappear. So he called up and said, can you change it to, and he made up on the spot, Calvin, so Susan Calvin. However, he was given this, and I don't know how true this is. This is quite interesting. It says, on April 9th, it says that he's put that Susan Calvin was born in 1982 in the stories. And then I'll quote here, I'll read. It says, on 5th of April 1982, however, Christopher A. Nilsson of Western Australia took typewriter in hand and composed a letter to Asimov's. That's the Asimov science fiction magazine. With quite obvious delight, he included a clipping from the 1st of April 1982 issue of the West Australian, his local paper. And I trust the fact that it was April Fool's Day, but nothing to do with the item he encircled in red crayon. The item is a birth notice, and this is what it says in full. Quote, Calvin, to Elizabeth and Jeremy, a daughter, Susan, born 30th of March 1982. Sincere thanks to Dr. Asimov from all who have long awaited this event. In other words, in 1982, then that's the end of the quote. In 1982, on 30th of March, to be exact, Susan Calvin was born exactly as I had predicted in 1950, over 3 decades before. Well, he says he just didn't really predict it, but it's just kind of neat. And he goes on and saying, like, wouldn't it be interesting if she actually went through for sort of university for robotics, and there is no company called, what's it called, U.S. Robotics and Mechanical Men Incorporated, which was supposed to have been founded in 1982 in the story as well. But it's like, if she actually graduated, it's not impossible for her to go to these universities and graduate with this and get a company at a robotics place. And because of that, they could conceivably change their name to U.S. Robotics, Robots and Mechanical Men. He goes on, and he's saying like he didn't really predict it, but it's like he wrote something, and then that may have influenced things happen. But he never knew if it was actually true. But anyway, I just found this amazing, and it's an additional 55 essays in here. In the first one, do they number the number of essays? Not sure, I can't remember. Yes, they do. So they got 55 in here, so it's 110 between the two, 110 essays on science fiction and related. And then his final posthumously put out by called Gold, and it's a anthology of his last uncollected science fiction stories, but also 1, 2, 3, 4, 20 science fiction essays as well that are in here. And there was another one called Magic, which was his fantasy, and it also had his fantasy writings as well. So probably another 20. I can't remember what was in that, but this is gold. Okay, so that's that part. And where are we here? We're at 20 minutes, so that's actually pretty good. Now the rest is books that have been written about Isaac Asimov's writing, and there is a few things, and I believe I've got everything. I recently just received this one, which would have been the last one. I'll show that first. It's quite a title. Bedtime reading, I'm sure. Chaos Theory, Asimov's Foundations and Robots, and Herbert's Dune. The Fractal Aesthetic of Epic Science Fiction by Donald E. Palumbo. It was put out by Greenwood Press. It's their number 100 contributions to the study of science fiction and fantasy. And this was originally put out in 2002. This is not the original. This is one of their cased reprints that is ugly. It's just white. It was gray cloth, the original. However, after getting it, I have noticed there are blank pages. There are at least 2, possibly 3. And see, it's a blank page. I've bookmarked them. Yeah, there's 3 pages here in total that are blank, that are missing the text. Oh well. Anyway, let me see if I can get the pile off here without dropping everything. Okay. Now here is, well, let's put this one on top. That is what they're, that's a collection of Asimov's about his writing. I think I've got everything pulled together here. So we've got this one. This is a series that I really like. I've got about 4 of them, I think. Anyway, I'll talk about it. It's called Writers of the 21st Century Series. It was edited by Joseph D. Olander and Martin Harry Greenberg. And it actually has an afterword by Asimov, who talks about the writings inside, about his own writings. It's a collection of essays. This was put out in 1977. And it's a collection of essays, not all complimentary either. And Asimov was okay with that. And it's over 200. It's a little over 200 pages. Yeah, well, 250 pages, pretty well, with everything, index and so forth. It's a series that was put out. Here's it. This isn't the complete list, but there's Arthur C. Clarke, which I do have. Philip K. Dick, it was in preparation at this time. I don't have that one. Ray Bradbury, I don't have, which I want to get. Robert A. Heinlein, which I do have, and Ursula K. Le Guin, and it says in preparation. But there's also Jack Vance, and I think that might be it. So there's 3 I still need to get. I've got, this was a 1, 2, 3. I've got 4, so there's 3 more to get. And they're worth getting if you can find them. The Philip K. Dick seems to be the most expensive. That'd be the very last on my list to get. The next one I want to get is the Ray Bradbury one, and then Jack Vance. And as far as I know, there's nothing else. I don't think it took off as a series. Here is another small little book. It's called Recognitions, is the series. It's Isaac Asimov, Gene Fielder, and Jim Meal, or Jean Fielder. It's very short. It's like just an extended essay, a little over 100 pages. Sorry, I'm just checking. Yes, I do have another one here that's interesting. This is by Unger Press, Frederick Unger, New York, 1982. They did a lot. It's not just science fiction. They did Raymond Chandler, P.D. James, J.D. McDonald, Russ McDonald, Dorothy L. Sayers. For science fiction, the general editor was Tom Staker. By the looks of it, maybe Isaac Asimov was the first volume. Then they did Ray Bradbury, Critical Encounters, Writers and Themes in Science Fiction, Critical Encounters 2, The Feminine Eye, Science Fiction and the Women Who Wrote It. There's Frank Herbert by Timothy O'Reilly. I've got an ex-library of that. That's a little hard to get. It's a little over 200 pages, but it's pricey. And then there's Ursula K. Le Guin and Theodore Sturgis. There might have been more, I'm not sure, but it's an interesting series. Again, it's very, very brief. All these things are, because they're like little essays. There's no real in-depth thing. For even this academic one by Palumbo, it's like less than 200 pages on Asimov, and it's taken it from a very warped or strange, fractal chaos theory. It's just like it's an essay. It's an academic navel-gazing exercise. This is probably the biggest one, and it still lacks a lot, is The Science Fiction of Isaac Asimov by Joseph E. Petrus Jr. And it's probably the biggest one. There's this whole list of... it's authors put out, I think, by Dennis Dobson. This is UK, 1974. And so it's got, earliest Asimov Robots chapter. They're basically like little essays. Asimov Foundations 1, 2, and then novels, and then his collections, and most recent, and a bibliography. So, that's about the extent of secondary material that's been done on, the most expansive. The best one is sort of probably yet to come here, and I'll leave that to last. Let me get... here we go. This one's interesting. I was sort of excited to get this because I actually got this here in the UK about a couple months ago. I like the cover. I really like the cover. It's sort of reminds me of Advent Publishers, but it's what's the publisher? It's Mirage, the Voyager series. It's V113 from Baltimore, Maryland, 1972. It's called Asimov Analyzed. It's a bit strange. It was written by Neil Goebel, former newsman from Stillwater, Oklahoma, who obtained his undergraduate education at Oklahoma State University. Now major in the Air Force. He lives with his wife. So he writes sort of scientific stuff. But it's sort of leftover or a reworking of his PhD or MA thesis. And this is some interesting stuff that's in here. Let me see if I can get the... Here we go. Here's an analysis of Asimov's sentences and how many words per sentence. Okay? So if you ever wanted to know that, the average sentence word count, this is the book for you. And then the percentage, words per sentence, there's about 3 graphs for that. And then we've got, what do we got here? We've got, here we go. There's another statistical summary of medical texts, science books, the average paragraphs, how many syllables, and then per words, sentences, and so forth. Very odd. Sentence length diversity graph. The number following the title in each graph. Okay, this is percentage of sentences. There you go. And that's in currents of space. Yeah. Bedtime reading as well. This is another older one. It's an interest. Oh, I don't have an original of that. I do have, but I don't know where it is at the moment to show you what it looks like. This is a print-on-demand edition of Starmont Reader's Guides. They're almost like, well, they're better than like a Cliff Notes, but it's on that line where it's very general. And this is by Donald M. Hassler. It's Isaac Asimov, Starmont, Reader's Guide number 40. There's a whole bunch of them. I've got a Ray Bradbury one, original one, but this is like, I don't know why they made it such ugly. And it's like glossy. They don't need to do that. It's very short. It's like just over 100 pages long. And it's a very, very brief summary. But again, they're essays. And see, what I find interesting of these things, yes, there's no in-depth thing, and some of them cover the same ground. But there's usually always something a little different, like a little different insight into the writing. So if I like an author, and this is like I've collected this stuff over time, and I think I've now got when I say everything book-wise, there are essays galore in various publications and other volumes that I even have about Asimov, other writers. And in, say, Foundation, the International Review of Science Fiction, Extrapolation, Science Fiction Studies, and other places, there are treatments and essays about Asimov and lots of writers. They're the difficult ones to track down. So we've got here the Campbell Years short stories, Calvin Robot books, and the Foundation trilogy, 3 novels, and the Juveniles robot novels, and 2 non-serial novels. This was published in 1991, so it will encompass a lot. It was by Borgo Press, who got these, and now it's the Wildside books, the Wildside Press that's putting those out. Now, there's a few more here. I'll try to get those through as quickly as possible. There is a huge author series, Twain. Twain's, do they call it American authors, or is it just Twain's? Yeah, Twain's United States Authors Series. I don't have a dust jacket here. This is a ex-library. It's from the Ellen College Library, Ellen College, North Carolina. And it's no longer the property, as it says. It doesn't have a dust jacket. It's quite clean, other than this. Theoretically, it could replace the end papers and make it nice, but I'm not going to bother. There's a few that I might do that on that I have because it's been ripped out and so forth. But anyway, again, this is a general study of his writings by an academic called William F. Tuppence, or Tuppence. I'm not sure how you pronounce his name. I think he's at university. Well, it's Indiana University at Indianapolis. Now he is very involved with Ray Bradbury collection that's there. I think it's at Indiana University or one of the university. There's a Ray Bradbury Institute. But anyway, there's Asimov himself as the frontispiece, and again, it's very short. It's just over 100 pages. It's got a selected bibliography, and it goes through life and intellectual background, the end of eternity, robot series, robot novels, Galactic Empire, the Foundation, and then a critical summary. So it is very, very brief, but it's still quite interesting. Now we're going back to this Palumbo, the chaos guy. This is quite disappointing in many ways. It's an Asimov companion, characters, places, terms, in the Robot/Empire/Foundation meta-series. It is one of the newer ones that have been done, but it's very, very thin, by McFarlane Publications, 2016. Now, it is done as a sort of dictionary or encyclopedia. It's got information in it, but it's it's very brief. Some interesting stuff in here. I've been perusing it. I got that really cheap. Is it a print on? No, it's not a print on demand, but it's McFarland, as I say, 2000. 16, I think I said. Yeah, 2016. It never was out in hardcover. It's just paperback, as far as I can tell, and ebook. Now, here is a larger one. This is an interesting series. This is Conversations with Isaac Asimov, and I got this recently too, like in the last few months. There he is, there again, looking a bit not too happy, actually. Actually, it's the same as the picture on the front. But yeah, it's a number of interviews with him. There are a lot of interviews in various places, but they're kind of short. But there's some good interviews here. Thomas Clarison, James Gunn, and other ones here. This is an interesting series. They've got a whole, well, I guess maybe a half dozen science fiction writers that I'm aware of. They've got Ray Bradbury, which I do have because, again, got these both very cheaply. Ray Bradbury, there's Ursula K. Le Guin, there's Samuel R. Delaney, did I say Ursula K. Le Guin? And there's a few others that are good in this series. And this was in hardcover, but I couldn't afford the hardcover, so the paperback was extremely cheap. Now, probably the very best writing and assessment of Isaac Asimov's writing is what's next here by James Gunn. This is the new revised edition from his earlier work. It's again McFarland. It's called The Foundations of Science Fiction, the revised edition. Not sure how revised it is. 2005. Originally was done by Oxford University Press, 1982. I'd like to get the hardcover of it at some point. But yeah, it goes through his robot novels and the same thing. But again, it's short. It's like 270 pages. But James Gunn was a fabulous scholar, and he did one of the sort of seminal studies, academic studies. He did a PhD thesis on science fiction. I've actually got it. That has been recently fully published with some commentary as well. Now, he part of that was I think published in maybe Fantasy, the magazine of Fantasy and Science Fiction, but it was a little bit. But it's from 1951. So we saw in another video the Pilgrims Through Space and Time, which is 1947, which was the very first academic one, and James Gunn's probably was the next one that came out on the slate for science fiction. And he was an academic as well. So it's not that it's better that he's an academic, but it's that it began with a little bit of acceptance, a slight acceptance in the academic world by few, even though they were sort of laughed at for doing science fiction. Same as Thomas D. Clarison, but there were others as time goes on. But this is probably the best study, I would say, of all these. I've not read I don't know what's revised in it. I had read the original one a long time ago. I never had a copy of it, but I'd read it, and I'd like to get it. So anyway, that there is I believe it's everything that I have, sort of the nonfiction stuff. The next one will be about similar number of books, maybe 20 or so of ones that are edited by Asimov that I have in hardcover or not, or his stories themselves, or edited stories, edited collections. So not necessarily his, but there's always interesting introductions and prefaces to the stories. So anyway, that is it for today, and the next part will be the fiction, more or less, of Isaac Asimov. And have a good day. I hope you're having a good weekend. Take care, BookTube.